have political topics are, they're not a coincidence, but it makes sense because most of the bands I work with are very independent-minded, very headstrong, and they're not mainstream thinking people, but they're very, they have strong ideas. And when you have really strong ideas about things and you have something to say, I think very often it does become political. And if you're doing things that reflect where you're coming from, I think that there's always an element of that. In the beginning, a big role, because right when Faith No More was breaking up is when Brujeria got off their deal with Roadrunner. It was free, and we had Brujeria could do whatever it wanted, and we were thinking, he was thinking actually start a label, and you know, that would be a good way to start it. And I didn't want to do it at all. No, it's because it's a really big thing to get into. A label it seems great in theory, but it's really work, and a lot of it is actually paperwork. It's promotions. It's getting money from people, you know, distributors. It's retail, thinking like a retail person. It's not creative work at all. So I was like, why do I want to do that? And you know, he kind of wore me down and talked me into it. And then we worked together for a couple of years, but our work style was really different. There was no way that we were going to be able to do it together. But he did have a lot in the beginning as far as getting me to do it. Sometimes, depends, different things. I mean, because when you're really a small label, you can't just sign everything you like. It's impossible. You could never afford to do it. You'd lose too much money. So I have to find something that really gets to me, and most of the time, well, let's see, let me go through the bands. Como se llama Felipe? Demo. Came to mind. They mailed me a demo. I liked it immediately, and what I did was just start a conversation with them, and the more we talked, the more I could see how we could work together. Because what I say is, hey, you know, not like a record label with like a bunch of staff and a bunch of stuff, you know, let's see how I can help you. Maybe I can't help you. Maybe what you want isn't what I can do. So we got to see if it even works together first. There's a lot of things that could not work, and it has to be a special fit. I don't see a difference really. I think in some ways being political is being experimental. I think when you're looking at power structures and you're speaking out against them, you were kind of doing something that you're taking on something that there's some risk, and you're taking a chance. And in some ways, that, to me, like if I can get an example, like when Faith No More played in Russia and we had Pussy Riot on stage with us, like that was experimental because we didn't know what was going to happen, and I was surprised, and she was kind of shocking, and you know, doing that and doing experimental music and discovering things, I think there's not so different as you think. When this project was born 3 years ago. Well, because I worked with Durfasog for 10 years, so we were always staying in touch. I mixed their third record in Denmark, like in the early 2000s, probably 2002, and we always stay in touch. He has a lot of the same tastes as me with music. So one band that always influenced me when I was younger was this band, This Heat. And Charles Hayward is the drummer of This Heat. And Charles Hayward went and played in Denmark about 5 years ago and met Mats. And they had a conversation and they stayed in touch. And so Mats called me up about 3 years ago and said, Charles is going to be in New York. Why don't you come out with your bass and let's see if we can do some recordings. So we did. I hadn't met Charles before, but I knew his work. And so we had 3 days just to see what we could come up with, and that's what we came up with. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I mean, think about the age of the internet now. Like Angerty, for example, can email me a song without bass, I can record bass and I can email them back my bass track and it's on the record. I get my guitar track. Like, it's very easy to collaborate now. So, you know, I like to collaborate with anybody. It makes me think in different ways. So it's a good exercise. But as far as like my phase of having a rock phase or experimental phase, I tend to go, when there's too much of one thing all the time, I like to go the other direction because it's like eating too much of the same kind of food all the time. I like to, sometimes just being very simple and doing rock music, it just feels better because it's very straightforward, like eating a nice juicy steak, and doing experimental stuff is like something a little more refined and complex. You know, that's a very noble thing to do, but I just probably like to keep myself inspired. Just things that are exciting that make me feel good. I mean, that's kind of it. And you know, the older I get, there's always, you have to fight the urge to like feel like you've seen everything and done everything, because it makes you pissed off and bitter and cuts the inspiration. So I like to try to follow things that make me excited and give me energy. It's just that simple, really. I mean, it would be great if I could get involved in more experimental stuff if it's exciting and I like what comes out of it, but it doesn't have to be that way. I don't know. I don't know. Something will happen. It seems to always happen, so there will be something. But, I mean, God, every time, my mind always goes blank. There's a couple things I'm going to do next year and coming up, but I mean, with Koolarrow, we can only do like 2 or 3 releases per year because we're so small that I want to make sure that when they come out, they're done correctly, and you know, we release in Europe as well as the States, so there's coordination on both sides of the ocean, and it's a lot of work. And also want to have time to make music and write music too. So for sure we'll be doing a lot of music next year. And with release-wise, I don't know. Maybe I'll do 1 or 2 in the next 6 months. Maybe. But if I'm not doing it, it's because I'm doing music. So one way or another, I'll be working with music.